Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now in today's video, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Vivo X90 Pro that I've been using for the past 2 weeks. Now without a doubt, this phone really is all about its 1-inch sensor at the back. So today, we're going to deep dive into the photos that were taken by this particular device here and see how it really works out. And of course, I'm going to do something really fun here, which is compare it to an actual camera. So we're going to see whether this camera here, because of all its advancements, how close is it to an actual camera and is it good enough for you to use? Let's find out. Now before we begin, let's talk a little bit about a few key specifications of this flagship device. We do have a Dimensity 9200. We also have UFS 4.0 storage. We have 12 gigabytes of RAM here, a 120 watt charging. So you already know that this is a flagship device. At the front, we have a beautiful 120 Hz display. But again, this is really not all about those specifications here because I really want to talk about those cameras at the back. Now, just in terms of numbers, we do have a 50 megapixel 1-inch sensor. We also have a 50 megapixel ultra wide, and last but not least, a 12 megapixel telephoto lens. So all these numbers are really not important because what's most important is the results. How do they really perform with those Zeiss tuning, with the T-star, like anti-glare kind of lens at the back here? Let's jump over to the computer behind and find out. So I'm going to start off and first and foremost with the strengths. You guys already know with a 1-inch sensor, you will be getting a very nice background blur, a natural background blur that is not done by AI. The second photo here, you will again notice that at an arm's distance, you will see that the background is completely blurred out in a very nice and soft manner that looks very natural. Now moving on to the third photo, again, you will see that we have the same pattern here. This is all due to the 1-inch sensor. The background blur is very natural. If you zoom in closer to the bottle here itself, you will notice that there is no such issues with edges on the sides there that has some kind of weird bokeh and all that. It is completely perfect here. I also took a couple of photos of these trees and leaves here that you can see in a proper park or something like that. You will notice that again, the object, the tree itself really stands out from the background, and again, this is actually a very beautiful looking photo. Now we're going to move to the next point here, and that is actually in terms of the downsides of a 1-inch sensor. At the sides here, you will notice that there is some kind of blurring going on, which is supposed to not be blurred, but you will notice that at the edges here, it's slightly blurred off, and that's because it is not on a completely flat panel. Now moving on to the next shot, you might notice that this chips on the left side of the plate, it is also half clear and half blurred out. So again, this is due to the distance of that object with the camera lens itself. It still looks great, but if you want a completely clear image of the entire, all the food on the plate itself, you will not be able to get that here. Moving down to the third shot, this final one here, again, you will notice that the front portion of the rice is actually very clear, but as soon as you move slightly upwards towards those prawns and then even the cucumber at the back, it is already blurred out. But otherwise, I still think a 1-inch sensor is great on any smartphone, still beats any other phones. Now we're going to talk a little bit about that Zeiss mode. Zeiss mode here basically means it is more natural colors. So if you turn on Zeiss mode, you get more natural colors. If not, you will be very saturated. So take a look at this shot here side by side. You'll notice that right away, the right image here is actually a little bit flush in terms of the colors, but it is more true to life. Just take a look at the grass, the greens at the bottom. The one on the left here is very not natural. It looks very saturated. Moving on to our next shot, this is again of a park. You'll notice that the greens here are extremely saturated without Zeiss mode turned on. Here are a couple more shots with Zeiss mode turned on. I noticed that it still turns out a little bit saturated than what you actually see with your own eyes. And this final shot here that I want to show you guys is actually more accurate. This is really close to what I see with my own eyes. So like I said, it really depends on the environment that you're in. It's a hit or miss kind of situation with the Zeiss mode. Alright, so we're going to move on to night mode. Now, in terms of night mode, again, some shots turn out really nice, whereas some shots don't do that great. So the first shot here is actually quite okay looking. I would say that we have here a very clear look of the booth here, the decorations and everything looks very clear. The next shot here gives it an even better look. Again, a very nice separation between the front and the back. I think this shot looks fantastic. If we move on to the next shot of the Twin Towers, I noticed that night shots tend to turn out a little bit warmer than it actually is. So there's a little bit of a warm tint going on here. The towers aren't actually like yellowish or greenish. Moving on to the next shot, again, this one here is actually a very busy photo. We can see a lot of things going on here. We have cars, we have people, we have lights and everything like that. I noticed the picture here look a little bit over sharpened, and again we have this very warm tint going on here. Just take a look at the roads. It wasn't actually that yellowish at night, but you know, it's quite warm over here. Moving on to this particular shot, this is actually, I would imagine something wrong with this image. You know, this shot just doesn't look right. If you take a look at the lights on the lorry, the blue lights here, it just looks a bit weird. Even the chips that you can see on the lorry itself is very over sharpened, and I think this is one example of a shot that didn't turn out that great at night. Other than that, this is my final shot here that I want to share with you guys, a night shot. Again, the good news here is that there is very minimal glare. That means, again, I think that is thanks to the T-star coating, but you still have this very warm tint that is, you know, extended on the pictures here. Everything looks a little bit warmer than it actually is. Now we're going to move on to the next level here and compare it with an actual camera, because you know, these days I see the X90 Pro improving compared to the previous gen, but we want to see how good is it compared to an actual camera. So we're going to move on to our next shot here. I went to the car showroom, and just take a look at this shot first and foremost. You would see that the X90 Pro did a great job here, very nice and clear car, but the one on the right here, this is taken by the camera, and you will notice that with a camera you will have that very nice soft background blur going on at the back. So of course the camera still takes a better image here, but if you do not compare them side by side, you would still think that the X90 Pro did a good job. Now moving on to the next shot, our second shot here, again this is taken off the bonnet of the car. You will notice that the one on the right has more accurate rays compared to the one on the left. Alright, the third photo here, I would say that the X90 Pro did a great job at, you know, brightening the entire image. It looks very nice. But again, if we just look at the one on the right, the camera has this really nice, you know, soft background blur, which is not achievable, I would say, by any smartphone today yet. So hopefully in the future we would have, you know, smartphone cameras closer and closer to what we can get from a camera. But I would say the X90 Pro is already doing a great job here. Now we're going to move on to the next shot. Here you can see that just in terms of this cup of coffee, the X90 Pro did a great job here. With that 1-inch sensor, with a close-up distance, you will notice that we have very nice background blur. The second shot here, again, I would say I might actually choose the one on the X90 Pro. It looks very nice. You know, you have this very soft background blur, and again, this is just based on the sensor itself. This is not portrait mode at all. It's just a natural shot in auto mode. So this is what you can get with the X90 Pro. Moving on to our third shot here. The third shot, you know, as it gets further, you will notice that the door at the back for the X90 Pro is actually already like completely clear. There's no soft background blur going on, unlike the one on the camera. But you know, just to let you know, I think that the X90 Pro is doing a great job here at these pictures. One more shot here for you guys to see of this sandwich together with a drink. Again, very beautiful, you know, soft background blur on the X90 Pro. Now, in more challenging scenarios like this one here, we have a portrait of myself, and you might notice that for these kind of scenarios, let's take a look at the X90 Pro first. You might notice that there is a bit of a weird blur going on with the leaves at the back, and that's what really happens with AI. You know, the algorithms are trying to, you know, work out where is the distance between myself. So for this particular shot, I would say that, you know, the one on the camera looks a little bit better because we have some proper blur, you know, with the leaves at the back here compared to the X90 Pro. But the X90 Pro still did a good job. One thing I didn't really like about, you know, pictures taken of people is that, again, it does tend to have a warmish tone. Like, just take a look at this photo. I look too yellow over here, which doesn't really reflect my real skin. And in this next shot, I would say that it's a pretty much similar scenario. But again, if you don't really compare left and right, you might actually like the photo of the X90 Pro. Now back to this final comparison of a portrait. I think this is where the X90 Pro did an excellent job with taking my picture here. The skin tones were actually even better than the one on the camera. The one on the camera looks a bit, you know, flushed out. In fact, the leaves at the back looks perfect on the X90 Pro. I think this is actually a very good shot of the X90 Pro in terms of portrait mode. Alright, a final few photos just for fun. I used the portrait mode and took a photo of this BMW. Again, it looks very good here. You might actually be fooled to think that this is taken on the camera. And even this shot here, guys, I think this was one of my best shots taken of the car itself. The background blur looks fantastic. This is taken with the portrait mode, by the way, so it works very well with objects as well. And here is the final shot of this car. Once again, So that's pretty much it. I hope this kind of comparison here, the pictures, a very quick analysis gives you an idea on what the X90 Pro is capable of. Alright guys, so that is actually my analysis of the Vivo X90 Pro, the camera itself. I don't want to say that my kind of analysis is the most accurate here, but those are just my thoughts on the pictures coming off the Vivo X90 Pro. Of course, definitely you will be experiencing different kind of results in different kind of scenarios, different kind of environments. The way the AI computes, the picture quality here is going to be very different across all your kinds of scenarios, and those are just my few scenarios that I've actually tried out. I just hope that today's video gives you an idea of how the Vivo X90 Pro is actually advancing in terms of its cameras. I would say that it's definitely a huge jump coming from the Vivo X80 Pro, and some people out there are still thinking like, why isn't the X90 Pro Plus coming? I think the camera at the back of this Vivo X90 Pro is already a very huge leap, and you will definitely be happy if you are into smartphone photography. With that said, thank you for watching all the way to the end. Don't forget to give a like if you like today's video. Sub to the channel if you want to see more content like this, and leave a comment down below if there is anything else that you want me to test out. With that said, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Do stay safe, everybody. Until then, see ya. Bye bye.